Hello and welcome to an all new Deep Cuts Live. I'm your host, Antoine Reid. And with me today, as you see, we have two guests with us. We have Brandon and Kendrick from Apostate Cigars. Brandon has been on. We just talked about this. He was on 3 years ago. So it's been a while. And Kendrick, this is your first time on with us. So we're going to have like a little mixed bag of expectations, but I'm sure we're going to have a good conversation today.
Great. We'll see if my podcasting has improved in 2 years.
Yeah, I wish I could. I think, I mean, it was a good interview, so I didn't need to pull up anything embarrassing from that first interview to do it. So, we always like to start off with kind of like an icebreaker question before we kind of get into the nuts and bolts of the cigar stuff. So, I thought a good question, since we're going to have two of you on who are business partners, and all. It's a rare occasion that we have this kind of set up, but I wanted to ask you the icebreaker of what's one thing the other person is surprisingly good at that doesn't get enough credit?
Interesting question. Kendrick is a very quick study at a number of like games. So like when I met Kendrick, he didn't know how to play dominoes. He didn't know how to play poker. And then he started coming around, and now everyone dreads him at the table because he's lethal. So Kendrick is a very good study at learning how to beat you at something.
What's something that's Brandon's surprisingly good at that nobody would expect?
It's encouraging that you're having a hard time.
So much.
So many things to choose from.
Brandon, doesn't put his heart out on his sleeve a lot, but he's got a poetic soul, and he's very good at. He has very high emotional intelligence. We'll just put it that way. So he can be a really good armchair therapist for you if that's something that you need in your life.
That's true.
I think that's something that a lot of people need in their life. So
if you need a shoulder, I got you all day. Yeah.
Well, I love that dynamic between you two. So I'm looking forward to the rest of this interview. But like I said, I know last time we didn't have both of you on, so I love to compare stories. But how did you two first kind of get to know each other, or how did you all meet?
First contact I ever had with Brandon was a Facebook message that he sent me. Now it's been about 10 and a half years ago.
Yeah.
And it just said, "Hey, my name's Brandon. I'm really into cigars. Do you have any tobacconist openings at your cigar shop? Because I really want to get into the cigar business." So that was it.
That's it.
That was it. And then I met him in person for the first time when he came down to interview for that job. And I hired him on the spot, and the rest is history.
I had seen you at Beehive. I had seen you at the shop, but we never spoke or had a conversation. So I knew who you were, which is why I was obviously comfortable messaging you about the job. But we had never spoken before that.
Yeah.
Where's Beehive located?
It's in Salt Lake.
Yeah. So working together, how did Brandon make it? This is obviously a question for Kendrick. How did Brandon go from just being like an employee to someone that you knew that you could interact with a bit more?
So when I first hired him, I didn't have a lot of time available for him, hours at the shop as a tobacconist, but I was just in the process of moving my business location and upgrading things and turning an empty space into, you know, a cigar shop and lounge. And so I asked him if he wanted to come and swing hammers with me. And he's like, fuck yeah. So we really got to know each other, you know, spending time, you know, turning this space into a lounge, and we kind of developed a banter. And then by the time we opened, you know, he was on full time, and, you know, not long after that, he became the, you know, the manager for the store. So,
Brandon, anything you want to add to that story?
I work hard. No, it was fun. Before Kendrick hired me, I had been really getting into cigars, like nerdy, all the way in, right? Listening to podcasts, watching YouTube stuff. And I had made an offhand remark to my wife that my ultimate dream would be to build a lounge someday. So when I started working for Kendrick, I thought it was cool to just be doing the tobacconist thing. And then he was like, well, do you want to help me build my lounge? I was like, yeah, dude, I guess I just manifested that shit. So it was easy to be excited to go hang out with Kendrick every day, roll some paint on some walls, put some screws up, you know, hang drywall. It was a fast way to not just develop a professional relationship, but a friendship too. Yeah.
Cool. So how long did it take for you all to kind of get this idea of like, maybe, okay, we've worked together in this kind of retail setting. Now, what if we create this our own brand? Like, how long did that take?
like 4 years. We originally, you know, we were doing house plans for the store, working with a factory in the Dominican, and you know, they were good, kind of, you know, mid-level budget cigars for our customers. But I always wanted to do like a super premium, you know, special blend for the store, and get really hands-on with the blending, actually picking the tobaccos, and you know, rather than outsourcing that to a master blender at the factory. And so we started having conversations about what that would look like. And as we got deeper into it, we were like, you know what, if we're going to go all out like this, then, you know, maybe it would be good enough to, you know, offer as a product to some other cigar shops, you know. And then from there it was like, oh well, shit, let's just turn it into a national brand, why not? And so, you know, that's when we started transitioning Brandon out of the management role and into you know, he became, you know, a partner and co-founder in a whole new company, which is what Apostate is.
How long did it take you all to settle on the name Apostate?
We struggled with, you know, finding the right name for a little while, and we were kind of spitballing in the office one day, and a mutual friend of ours who was also working at the shop for me at the time, she knows us really well, and she kind of just looked at us and went, y'all aren't gonna call it Apostate? And I was like, yes, we are.
Yeah.
Like a light bulb.
As soon as she said it, yeah, we were like, yep, that's it. Got it.
And yep. And so from there, it was easy to kind of create the, you know, the brand identity and, you know, the business model and all of that. So, you know, it was a little bit of a process, but it actually came pretty quickly and intuitively. So
once we had the name, everything else fell into place pretty quick. Yeah.
For those that don't know, like, what does apostate mean?
Apostate is it's mainly used as a religious term. It refers to someone who is kind of turned their back on a set of beliefs and walked away from, like a religion or a family group or something like that. You're an outcast, essentially.
Yeah, it's kind of a derogatory term the Mormons use, like, a lost soul, a fallen angel,
Wayward sheep. Yeah.
someone who listened to the wrong angel on their shoulder.
Did any hesitation ever come to you about mixing religion with the cigar stuff? Because I know that some people don't. I know some people are, you hear, those are some things don't mix into your business. Religion sometimes is that one thing, but did that ever occur to you all, or did you just say, no, this is like who we are?
Yeah, we didn't really second guess it too much. It was important that we, when we're creating our brand and our brand story, that it's a real story, our true, like, it's who we really are. We're not legacy, 5-generation tobacco people. We're just a couple ex-Mormons who found a love for cigars, and that was our story. And so we didn't really have much hesitation in, presenting that idea. We were always, I was already comfortable mixing it a little bit because my shop Beehive, our main logo has a picture of Brigham Young smoking a cigar. And for those who don't know, Brigham Young was the leader of the Mormon Church who brought the Mormons out to Utah from Illinois after the founder of the church was killed. And I was used to when I first released this logo of this religious guy smoking a cigar, which another thing I need to probably mention in case nobody knows, Mormons really frown on the use of tobacco. And if you use tobacco, you can't be in full fellowship with them. So portraying their leader smoking a cigar on my logo it burned away any hesitations that I might have had when it came to doing the apostate thing, which is leaning in even more to that what some might perceive as sacrilege. I'm used to the derogatory remarks, things of that nature. I got a lot of emails when I first released that logo with Brigham Young from people in the Mormon Church who, weren't happy about it. And, some of them were downright mean, telling me I'm going to hell and all of this stuff. So, helped me kind of develop a thicker skin and in preparation for what was to come. So
Yeah, definitely. Like that, it sets up a story for your brand. Like I've noticed in the 13 minutes or so that we've spoken so far, like, you didn't say you want to create a cigar that has like this kind of flavor profile or whatever. It was something that needed to have a story, which I think comes from probably your experience with retail, knowing that stories are going to have a lot more of an impact than your usual wrapper binder filler.
yeah, the story and the presentation sells the first cigar. But that being said, if you want to sell the second cigar, the cigar itself has to be on point. And luckily, we are working with, in my opinion, the best tobacco people in the industry at Tobacco La Palma, who really care about the tobacco itself and the quality of the product. And so once we had that piece, the whole package was in place, where we have the great story and presentation, with the quality in the cigar to back it all up and, keep it moving forward.
Now, do you consider your brand to be boutique, or is it just because I know that some people love to embrace the term boutique in the cigar industry, and others like to say, "Oh, and that's well, we're not going to use that term." So how do you? What's your both of your relationships with this boutique idea?
It's not a moniker that we emphasize, but I definitely think that if you look at the definition of what a boutique cigar is, we fit that definition. Um, it's small batch, intentionally crafted, uh, products that it's the craft beer of the industry. You know, a true boutique cigar is got a little bit more passion behind it than a giant corporation trying to add more money to their bottom line.
And Brandon, I know that you deal with sales, um, in addition to everything else you have to do with the brand. But traveling around, like I don't hear boutique used as much as I did maybe 5 years ago. So are retailers and consumers kind of retreating from that word a bit? Do you find, or how would they? I mean, do they even care if it's boutique or not?
I think it's a mix of people who are really leaning into identifying themselves as a boutique heavy humidor, for example. Like, oh yeah, my humidor is really heavy on boutiques, or I'm really heavy on legacy. It's still definitely a buzzword. I just don't think it's as much of a buzzword, like you said, as it was maybe 5 years ago. I think it's kind of just settled into this dichotomy in the market of, all right, here's boutique and here's legacy, right? Here's the upsetters, the new guys who are making noise and doing craft beer stuff, and here's the Budweisers over here that have always been here and never gone anywhere and still make a great product. I think for consumers, both are necessary, but I think for retailers, it's about the identity that they want in their space, as far as what they have to offer you. What's the vibe there, right? So. As far as being on the road goes, I don't have the boutique conversation as much, but it's definitely kind of just built into the experience.
So with traveling on the road though, like what do you hear people, retailers talking about now? Like what do they care about more than anything?
I think what they care about is relationships. The biggest conversation that I hear on the road, especially from shop owners, is whether or not they feel supported by a brand. And I think boutique may have the edge there. Boutique, I think they're a little more eager to be hands-on with a retailer because they feel like they have to. For me, every relationship is super important, and I need
Hmm.
to cater to those relationships. Whereas not to disparage anyone, but the Padrones of the world, they don't really need a sales force. You know what I mean? They don't really need guys on the road saying, "Hey, we're Padrone. This is what we're about." You already know. You know it's a good product. You know it's going to be a consistent smoke. You know who they are and what they've been doing for years. For me, I have to walk in and say, hey, this is who we are. This is our story. This is where we come from. This is why we're here. And by the way, here's the product, which is also good. So for me, it's a lot more involved. And we celebrate every single win. When we add a new account to our portfolio, we post it on the social medias. Hey, please welcome so-and-so to the family. They're purveying our product now. We're so happy to have them on board. And you don't see that as much from legacy brands because they could be in and out of the humidor that we may or may not notice. But if somebody adds Apostate to the humidor, the customers are going to notice. It stands out. It's new. They haven't seen it before. They don't know what it is, or they've heard of it, never tried it. So I think there's a little bit of an edge, Salesforce wise, being able to walk into a place and talk about a brand like Apostate.
And I'm sure Kendrick, you as a retailer, know, um, relate to what Brandon just said about the support, because I hear that a lot with retailers where they talk about the brands that they hear from easily, that they get visits from all the time, versus those that have to say like, I haven't seen a brand rep in a couple months, and what happened to the brand rep, or nobody visits my store anymore, and they still expect, even though it's 2026, they still expect that, and they don't expect just to have like a email relationship with retailers.
Yeah, 100%. Sometimes it pains me to like have to carry a brand because it's so popular, even though that brand might not be the best at supporting the retailer, and what that support looks like, varies, but it's really about having a more direct connection with the source, if that makes sense. And it's really important to, for me as a retailer, to be able to offer that connection directly to my customers, connecting them to the source too, in like this kind of triangle relationship. And yeah, the customer, really likes to feel connected to that source. They like to know what it is that they're smoking and where it came from and who the people are behind it. And so, yeah, if the retailer doesn't have that connection, then they're not going to be able to pass that on vicariously, to their customer.
What surprised you being in retail and having that experience? What surprised you about being in this on the other side of this, like the brand owner? Because I know that can be, for some people, could be a little bit jarring, because you're like, oh, I have experience with this brand, or selling these products. It should be super easy to create my own cigar brand and get it going. Did anything surprise you about the whole experience?
I don't know if there were any surprises, but it's not easy, and I mean, honestly, the most surprising thing for me was how much I enjoyed it. Like the creative process and the blending process, and forging that deeper relationship with the people that grow the tobacco. Um, we have a whole extended family down in the Dominican now that we didn't have before. It's just deepening those relationships that already existed. We were already friends with Hochi when we asked him to make our cigars, but now we see him several times a year, and we go over to his house for dinner, and it's just a whole different level. It's um, I guess, yeah. To answer your question, the biggest surprise was how meaningful it all is. Yeah.
How about you, Brandon? Like, being, I know you came also through retail, but from a different experience as well, because obviously consumer first, then you got into the retail, then you kind of graduated to another level. So did anything kind of surprise you about the process as you were kind of learning these different levels of the industry?
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise for me came when I started spending time on the road and walking into shops around the country trying to sell our product, was how, even though this industry is it's a big industry, but it's a small industry, right? It's a small world.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as we're all doing the same thing, retailers handle their business very different. When Kendrick and I were doing Beehive, we were doing what felt intuitive to selling to our customers in Salt Lake City. Turns out that's an entirely different situation than selling to somebody, say, in Seattle or Chicago or New York City. It's a vastly different experience for those consumers because of where they are, what they like, what they've been exposed to. So for me, the biggest surprise was that even though we're all doing the same thing, we're all doing it very different, and everybody's doing their best to make it work. It's surprising how adaptable this industry has forced itself to become.
A minute ago, you mentioned that you work with Tabacalera Palma. What's it like working with them? Because I know that they are pretty big players, but you know, you don't hear about them as much as maybe some other cigar makers and cigar manufacturers out there. So what's it like working with them, and what did, you know, working alongside Hochi and his family kind of teach you about tobacco and cigars that you didn't know before you came into that relationship?
I learn something every time I go down there, man.
I'm
You know,
still there. Yeah.
it's the learning process never ends, and you know, it's just having conversations, you know, as you're driving around in the car, or uh, you know, sitting around having some rum, or you know, whatever it is. Um, it's yeah. I guess I your original question kind of zapped out of my mind.
No, just like, you know, like people don't hear as much about Tabacalera Palma
Oh,
outside.
right, right, right. Well, let me tell you about Tobacco Palma.
Yes.
Uh, it's 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 just a unique and special vibe. Everybody's part of a family uh, at every level, and Hochi has a culture there that is very inclusive, and he truly cares about his people and grows them from, you know, someone that's starting at the very bottom, you know, in terms of like what their job is at the factory, to you know, becoming like production managers and master blenders, and uh, it's the quality of the tobacco is just impeccable, and that comes first. There are no shortcuts taken for you know, quality. You know, sometimes cigar makers are in a rush to get product out to meet demand, and so they might speed up the fermentation process a little bit, which you know, it works, but it also has an effect on, you know, the outcome of the cigar. Um, and uh, just going down there, you feel like you're just part of the family, and you're taken care of, and uh, yeah, I don't know what else to say about
What's the blending process like working with them?
it. So that's another surprise, I guess, about the industry. You know, there are so many different ways to arrive at a blend, and you talk to two different blenders, and they might have completely different processes. So you know, I can only speak from our experience and how we do it. Um, and it's kind of evolved, you know, when we first started out versus what we're doing now. But basically, the process is we have, you know, dozens and dozens of different tobaccos on hand that we can work with. You know, think about it like, you know, if you're painting, you have all these different colors you can work with, and so you know, it starts out as a sometimes you just fall in love with a specific tobacco, and you just love what that tobacco tastes like and how it smells, and so you want that to be kind of the, I don't know, the center or the core of what the blend is. And then it's a matter of just finding complementary, balancing, you know, tobaccos to kind of go with that tobacco to create, you know, what a blend is. So, like when I'm blending, I often think in terms of like musical terminology. Like, you know, you have your bass, you have your mid range, you have your treble. So if you have a tobacco that you really love that's got lots of mid range, meaning that it's, you know, medium in body and flavor profile or whatever, or it hits your palate kind of like a medium way. You want to balance that out with some of the base note tobacco, some of the darker, deeper notes that you might get. And then the treble would be, the aromatic kind of top notes that you might get in a cigar. And then they all go together to create like a balanced song or, experience in the cigar.
And to kind of build on what Kendrick has said already, it was really cool to see the difference between our first trip to Palma, where we blended our first 3 cigars under pretty helpful supervision. That was kind of the learning curve for us. And I think it was a chance for us to earn Ho Chi's trust a little bit. And now when we go down there, we have full run of the place and kind of get to play with whatever we want. So that the process has allowed us to, we had good product in the beginning, but as we go on, I feel like we're getting better at it. We're getting access to more tobacco than we had before. And so that learning curve continues to bend in a cool direction. And we've been given all that freedom by Ho Chi because he trusts what we're doing. He's not going to let a bad product, come out of his factory, whether he's hands-on with the blending process or not, which rarely is. We'll bring him a test blend and he'll smoke it. But he's not back there with us when we're picking out the tobacco and choosing what the blend's going to be. It's been really cool to have that kind of freedom, which I'm not sure is the case in a lot of factories. I think there are factories that will blend by committee. A master blender's got 5 blends and you put them on the table for everybody and you all decide which one you all like best. That's one way to do it. Kendrick and I don't like to operate that way. We like to have our hands on every leaf that goes into the cigar. And Ho Chi's given us the freedom to do that. I don't know if we get that experience somewhere else.
I remember visiting Palma during Pro Cigar and just seeing their field operation in the factory. We got to see that in the new factory. It's a big operation.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a big operation. So I always tell people, like, events like Pro Cigar, yes, it costs a little bit of money, but to be able to go into places like that and see them working, see Ho Chi and the family, walking through, telling you about different places, it really does make you appreciate the product even more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it definitely does. And it's not, you realize once you're there that it's not for show. This isn't like show and tell time where everyone's doing their best because you're watching. That's just how they operate. That's just but every day. Yeah.
Now, before the trade show this year, I know a press release came out about you working with Oveja Negra. How did that come about?
So November 2024, I think, we got a message from James Brown with Black Label Trading with Oveja Negra saying that he was interested in having a conversation with us. And we weren't really sure what to expect out of that. He was he's being, sort of cloak and dagger about it. And so when we were on the phone call with him and Derek, they basically let us know that we've been on their radar for a while. They've been watching us hustle. They've been smoking our cigars. They had enjoyed our vibe, and they thought there was probably a good opportunity for us to join their family of brands for distribution and marketing. They go through LJ Zuka for distribution, and they've got some in-house reps and some brokers who work for them. And they had an opportunity for another brand to come in and kind of join what they were doing. And so they extended that invitation to us before PCA last year. And we said yes and decided to go with it. So they announced in the PCA last year, and we officially started distributing with them June 1st of 2025. So that was when we got access to the sales force and they started repping our stuff. So it's been an interesting year. Yeah, it's been fun.
And so you're working
them, yeah.
Basically you're working with 2 big powerhouses in the cigar industry, especially working with Oveja Negra with James and Angela, because they've been in your shoes. Like, they know what it's like to start a brand. I remember, I think I was at their first trade show, which was 2015 New Orleans, and I remember everybody was like, "Oh, like who are those people?" And I was like, "Oh, like do they have staying power?" Now all these years later, you go to the trade show, and it's like you're waiting in line to get to see
Yeah.
them, and so I think that's a like looking at your branding and your story, like it does seem like a good fit now that you kind of look at how everything is positioned.
Yeah, it's a very similar vibe. We operate very much the same. We have the same belief system. It's about the people as much as it is about the cigar. We're very into how James and Angela operate because we're kind of on the same page, and we always have. So it was not hard to fit in with that.
Yeah, it's been fun to kind of join that distribution family for sure. Feeling like we have a team now instead of just a me and Brandon thing, and that opened up some fun creative opportunity for us too. We blended a cigar at Oveja Negra last year, and we're releasing it as our first exclusive special limited edition release. It's going to be shipping to retailers in October, and so it's the first cigar that we've made outside of Tabacalera Palma, and so it's fun working with those different tobaccos, totally different tobacco characteristics than what we have been working with in the Dominican Republic. And so yeah, we're excited about all of that for sure.
Was that cigar the Death Mask?
Correct. Yeah.
So I know that how did that debut kind of, like you said, because it's a slightly different release that you're accustomed to, different kind of branding. It looks like it's had the touch by James, a little bit, just the vibe of it. So what makes that one so different?
I think when we conceived that cigar, we wanted it to be a good marriage of apostate and black label, Oveja Negra, that whole vibe. So it's we're still going with Mormon thematics like we do with all of our stuff. The Death Mask was featured prominently in the early history of the church. The church leaders passed away. They would do the plaster molds of their faces and put on display. So we've got the tie in there, but it also ties into the whole, macabre, gothic vibe that James has going. So all of the design was done by us, but with that marriage of vibes in mind.
I think James is one of those cool people in the industry that he can be a little bit quiet or reserved if you're getting to know him, but then after that he just opens up and it's just like a completely creative flow of everything. Like he kind of reminds me like when people talk about stories about Prince, you have like this idea, like public idea of him, and then like you get to know him and it's just like, no, this is how he really is, and people are like, really? Like, yes.
Right. That's very on the nose for James. Yeah, he's definitely an introvert. But like you said, once you've got his confidence, he's a wealth of knowledge. He opens up a lot. We've been lucky to spend a bunch of time with him lately, so it's really cool. Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah, and that cigar, it was not only different in that the factory of origin, but also the way that we blended it. So we were down in Nicaragua in December of last year, just hanging out, seeing the factory, having some meetings with the sales team, etc. And we were just sitting around bullshitting, and Angela turned over and she's like, "Hey, do you guys want to make a cigar here?"
Yeah,
And we were like,
yeah,
"Yes."
yeah.
But we didn't really have time to do much more at the factory because we were going home. So they sent us home with bundles of fumas of all the different tobaccos that they have. And we brought them home with us, and Brandon and I blended it here in the office in Salt Lake City with the tobacco that they had sent home with us. We put the blend together and sent James the recipe, and he, had some test blends made for us and sent them up, and it ended up working out. So yeah, it was fun.
And also, I think you had another release at PCA. Was it Lost Pages?
Yes, the Lost Pages. Here, let me show you. So it ships in this book box like this. And so basically, at Tabacalera Palma, when they're, in any factory, but, when they're cutting and trimming and rolling the cigars, there's always excess, trimmings and cuttings from the cigars. And they've been, stashing them away in a big box. And so we decided we wanted to make a cigarillo out of it. And lucky for us, Ho Chi happens to have all these, 120-year-old cigar machines in his factory. And so, they chopped up all of these cigars, and we used a Brazilian Aripiraca Maduro wrapper on it. And so, yeah, we're releasing and shipping this week, actually, first ever Apostate Cigarillo. It's called the Lost Pages, which also ties in with the Mormon thing, because just a little Mormon history. When Joseph Smith was translating the Book of Mormon from the golden plates, he had like the first 116 pages done, and he sent them home with a colleague so that his wife could read them. And somehow they got lost. They disappeared. And so, those 116 pages never made it into the Book of Mormon. So that's what the Lost Pages are. And so we thought it'd be a fitting name for the cigar. And, it also ties in with the cigar itself, the lost trimmings and cuttings, and so on. So, yeah, I'm super excited about it.
I was just curious with the naming and everything tying into Mormonism. Are there enough names and terminology in Mormonism for you to kind of keep this going for a long time, or is it kind of limited?
Oh, yeah, there's
never run out. Yeah,
we will absolutely never run out of inspiration.
Tons of source material.
In fact, it's harder to just narrow it down.
Mm-hmm.
Because
there's too much. Yeah, it's
so many
kind of for the low hanging fruit for the cigars so far. So we may have some things that become a little more obscure, but there's tons of stuff, all kinds of stuff.
Do you start off with? Do you let the product kind of choose the name, or do you kind of choose the name and then the product?
I think the product's been choosing the name.
Well, I will say we already had, when we did our first original 8 core line blends, we already had the names chosen before we ever blended the cigars. That being said, we kind of blended the cigar to the name. So like, for example, the Deseret, which is our second blend. Deseret is a word that means honeybee. It's lifted from the Book of Mormon. And so we wanted to blend a cigar like a honeybee, right? So we wanted to use sweet tobaccos, and the cigar itself looks like a honeybee. It's got the 3 stripes of Connecticut on the foot that resemble the stripes of a honeybee, and it's got a little stinger on the cap. The Liahona, our second cigar, is shaped like a torpedo because the word, it's a thin torpedo, and the word Liahona is also a Book of Mormon term that means compass.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted to say, okay, how do we make a cigar that is like a compass? Well, it's going to be the needle of the compass. So, the cigar, the size was already picked out for us based on the name. And, each one of our cigars kind of has a similar story to that, where, it all kind of just ties in together. The cigar and the name and the story, it's all a cohesive kind of a thing.
With all of your releases so far, have you been surprised by the response to any of them in particular?
Yes.
Which one?
The Feathered Serpent, our Candela. That's a cigar we made just because we're cigar nerds and we wanted to make a Candela. I always loved the Holy Lance Candela that Dion made, Lugion, and I just loved that cigar for its uniqueness. And so I wanted to do a Candela just because I thought it would be cool, not expecting it to be, super high in demand. There aren't a lot of Candela smokers out there. And in fact, Hochi tried to talk us out of doing it. He's like, don't do a Candela. Nobody's ever going to buy it. But I was like, no, I really want to do a Candela. So he had to dedicate a whole section of one of his farms to growing the Candela wrapper for us so that he could make the cigar for us. And we released it, and it's our number 2 seller. And it's probably the cigar that gets us the most attention out of all of our cigars.
It's for sure the one that the customers talk about most, whatever shop I go into, even though it's the number 2 seller. That the number 1 is the Deseret. It's a reliable Maduro that is good every time, right? So yeah, of course that's number 1. But number 2 being a Candela that was kind of an experiment for us was like it's talked about in every single shop, and honestly every podcast we do. That's like the highlight.
Well, I think it's because, like you said, it's different from what you see in the industry right now. You don't see that many Candelas because, kind of like Hochi, I think a lot of people have that idea like, well, it's not going to sell, so we need things that are going to sell right now. So why spend your time on it? But if you want to be different, and you know, in the humidor especially, if that cigar is sitting on a humidor shelf with everything else, you're going to go to it just because it looks different without even knowing anything about it and anything about the brand, looking at the band or anything like that.
When I'm at an event and people see it for the first time, they're like, "What's this green one? Tell me about this green one." Like it's the automatic thing that they hone in on.
It stands out being a Candela, but it also stands out in a lineup of Candelas. It's the only cigar on the market that has that particular Candela wrapper on it. Most Candelas are made from an Ecuador-grown Connecticut seed, and ours is Dominican-grown from Corojo seed. It's much thicker and darker and toothier than like a standard Candela. It's not nearly as delicate, and it adds a lot more flavor than just like a bitter grassiness. It adds sweetness and spice, and it turned out to be super special.
Has there ever been a blend that has come up yet that you've worked on and you got to the point of saying like, I would love to release it, but it's not a Apostate cigar?
No. We blend until we don't want to stop smoking it anymore. And that's what defines what an apostate is. We'll tweak the tobaccos. Okay, switch out this binder for that binder, or this filler for that filler. And once we pick up that test blend and smoke it and don't want to put it down, that's what an apostate is. So I would have a hard time like blending a cigar that I didn't want to put Apostate's name on. Like I would have a hard time blending a cigar for someone else
Right.
that wanted a different profile. Uh, I would be lost in that environment. Uh, just want to smoke something that I like. And after having smoked hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different cigars, I think Brandon and I both have a really good idea of what a good cigar is supposed to taste like. So we trust our palates and we trust our enjoyment. And if I don't want to put this thing down, then it's got to be good, right? So we just kind of roll with that.
So, like we established at the beginning of the interview, it's been 3 years since we've last spoken. Brandon was on. If we were to pick up this conversation another 3 or 5 years in the future, what do you hope? And hopefully it'll be sooner than that, I have to say. But what do you hope Apostate would have accomplished in those 3 to 5 years?
I hope that we become a household name in cigar shops, that everybody knows who we are. And I hope that we keep releasing blends that people get excited about, and uh, I don't know what else to say beyond that for myself.
Yeah, I think as long as we're staying consistent and releasing good product like we are now, I think what James and Angela are doing is really special, and I would love to see our trajectory kind of follow in their footsteps a little bit. That obviously takes a lot of work, but I think we both agreed that we're here to do that work. So 3 to 5 years, like Kendrick said, if we can become a household name, and I'm not worried about awards or being on lists or anything like that. I just want people to be able to pick up our product and enjoy it 5 years from now the way they are today.
What is the goal for the brand? Because I know that some brands, there's some people who are very money oriented, and there's other people who are growth oriented. What are you all working towards?
Growth and sustainability for sure. I think if money were a motivator for us, I don't think we'd still be here, because there's no money, man. It's you know what I mean. This isn't something that we're doing to enrich our lives that way. We're obviously, we want to pay our bills. We want food on the table for our families, but we're enjoying the process. We're enjoying the work. We're enjoying the relationships. And so if growth can accommodate more of that, then that's what we're here for.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's hard to say, what's the point in the future we're working towards.
Right.
And the reason why that's hard is because the whole process for me is more exploratory and intuitive. It's like we're exploring new territory. We don't necessarily know where we're going, specifically. All that we know is that we want to just keep going, and, I think that orientation has served us well, because it's led us in places that we never expected, and it's left us open to opportunities that maybe we wouldn't have noticed otherwise. And we're always reevaluating things. We stop and we pause and we look at the landscape and we go, okay, well, oh shit, looks like this canyon might be a dead end, so let's go down this canyon instead, and see what's down there. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's about the journey for sure, rather than the destination.
So, without giving away anything in particular, is there anything that you're experimenting with now that kind of has you excited about 2027, 2028?
Yeah, we've got some new blends kind of in the back pocket that I'm super excited about. I don't want to speak to those yet, but we're always just trying new things. The last time I was down in the DR, I wanted to get crazy, and so I just started trying some things with the blending that had even the people at the factory going, "Huh? Are you sure? Why would you do that?"
Which we're not. It's not uncommon. Yeah.
Sometimes the fact that we don't know things leads us into good places, right? Because if we were too focused on what's worked and what the tradition is, then you know the apostate would be a very different animal than it is. But really, there's no right or wrong way to blend a cigar if it works, if it smokes well and burns well and tastes good, then how can anyone judge it negatively? So, yeah.
Brandon, anything to add to that?
No, I'm excited about the new blends too. We don't know what we're going to do with them, but they're exciting. We'll do like we did with the Death Mask this year. We'll probably see some version of that again next year. We like the creative part a lot. So even though the core line of 8 cigars is done, we're still looking for ways to be creative and come out with something new, especially for things like PCA. You can't show up to PCA and not have something to talk about, right? So we're going to try to have something to talk about every year. But for us, that's just an extension of us having fun. And so hopefully, as long as we're having fun and doing new stuff, you guys get to enjoy it too. Yeah.
I think we're all looking forward to it. Like I said, Apostate is one of those exciting brands because you all are doing things so differently. You're not trying to fit into any mold. So it's always kind of fun to, smoke through your portfolio because you don't know what to expect, to kind of learn the stories behind the cigars because, again, they're not your traditional cigar stories like inspired by your grandmother or something like that, or, your family's generations has grown tobacco and you're doing this in tribute to them. So it's always fun to kind of, like I said, get to explore what the whole world of Apostate has to offer.
Yeah, thank you.
At this point of the show, I'd like to kind of close out things with 2 basic questions. One of them is, do you have a philosophy that you like to work or live by? And what is it?
Oh, man.
I kind of adopted the Ted Lasso philosophy of be curious, not judgmental. I like to look at the world with a little bit of wonder still, and I hope that doesn't go away. It lends itself to more than just cigars. So.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's hard to distill my personal philosophy down into anything in particular, but I can probably say that a big component of that is to just, make sure that you're adding an element of playfulness to whatever it is that is going on. Like, we're here for a short time. Let's make it fun. Let's make it enjoyable and just enjoy the ride,
Definitely. I want each of you to finish this sentence. Apostate Cigars is...
Oh shit, man, that's a tough one. Apostate Cigars is the brand that I smoke the most.
Yeah, there's that.
That works.
Yeah, I don't know what to say either, man. Apostate Cigars is, for everyone. It's Apostate Cigars is relationships, is community, is passion. We're here because we love being here, and I hope that's evident when you pick up one of our cigars and get to sit down and enjoy it with people you care about.
Well, with that, I want to thank you both for coming on to Deep Cuts and helping us further explore this world of apostate cigars. Like I said, it'll be great to have you back on. Hopefully, it won't take another 3 years.
Yeah, let's do it sooner. Yeah,
I know. Yeah. So we'll definitely follow up with that. But for those people who want to know more about Apostate Cigars, is there a website they should go to? Social media? What should they look for?
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, we're Apostate Cigars, and website's just apostatecigars.com. You can go to our cigars page, and we've got a little blurb about each cigar. If you click on the picture, it'll take you to YouTube. You can watch a little video about each blend, so it's really educational. You can see a list of all the retailers near you that carry our products, so it's a good place to go.
Well, awesome. Well, I want you both to sit tight for a couple minutes. We have a couple more things to film before we're done for today. But for anyone listening or watching, thank you for tuning in today. If you want to see any of this episode or any of the other episodes, you can do so at youtube.com/deepcutslive. We're on all the different podcasting platforms where you can also listen to this podcast. And again, all the other ones from the past. You can even go back 3 years and listen to the Brandon interview and catch yourself and have 2 hours of basically apostate. So thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And until next time.